Hello, welcome and thank you for visiting the Open Leadership channel. My name is Michael Breeze, and in this video I'll cover the first of the tools and models aimed at providing you with practical, usable methods to succeed as an open leader. And this model is called the Growth Engine, or Learn, Plan, Act cycle. Now I hope you find this video useful. Do stay until the end of the video to see how you can get access to more free resources. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, you risk missing out on the complete set of skills and knowledge in the open leadership approach that I'm giving away free here. Also, it'd be great if you could subscribe, as it makes it much easier for me to carry on making free content for those that need it or want it. Now, the tool or model that I'm going to cover in this video is foundational in its nature, hence it's the first one I'm covering. And it's called the Learn, Plan, Act model, as I say. It underpins a number of the tools that I'll share in later videos, and it's a way of thinking and acting in many areas of organisational life and life in general, so a very foundational tool or model. In structure, it's a cyclical process that's designed to deepen and accelerate continuous improvement and learning. In all aspects of personal and team and organisational development, it's used to identify variances from plan, shortfalls in outcomes, results, performance, opportunities for improvement, and actions to improve performance and outcomes. Now, the cycle helps us to plan before we act, but also to learn all that we can before we plan, and finally then to learn again after the action. And this cycle covers any form of activity that is repeated in organisational life, and in fact in life in general. Now, a key part of good leadership is to create an environment where you and your people expect to learn continuously, as well as to improve how things get done in your area of influence and the results that come from that. Now, this constant developing, learning and improvement is essential to both your organisation and your team if they're to stay relevant and contribute of their best. But it's fundamental to your leadership purpose as you seek to connect, engage and grow your people. It's also the source of enormous satisfaction and a sense of meaningfulness, a sense of meaningful work to people who engage fully with the cycle, i.e. hopefully you and your teams. Now the intention for this model is to embed it deeply in the way that you and your team think about work, make it habitual that you work this cycle, and ultimately therefore affect the way that you behave. When it's fully established as a way of working and thinking, it'll improve everything that your team does. And among the many things I've seen it improve and almost perform miracles include effectiveness of meetings, problem-solving methods, project planning, project management, execution of planned activities, performance improvement initiatives, cost reduction programs, personal and team capability development, communication plans and communication activity, and many more. In fact, I can't think of many activities where the model can't be applied and hasn't been applied to really great effect. And when it's applied consistently, the model will create a deep-seated and lasting culture of continuous improvement as it becomes second nature to you and your teams. Also, ultimately, each of these three steps, learn, plan, act, are an opportunity to continue your work to connect, engage and grow your team. Let's make a start then by going a little deeper here and taking a look at the learn stage in a little more detail. Now you may have seen similar models to this cycle that generally start with the planning step. You plan, then you act, and then you learn from it. This seems sensible. However, I always start with the learning stage for a couple of big reasons, really. Firstly, things that we're about to plan rarely happen in isolation or where there is no learning available to us from previous experience of one sort or another. So my view is we should do that learning, that thinking before we start the plan. And the other reason is that I think the learn step is the most important step in the whole cycle. If you execute the learn step well, it tends to lead to good planning, which in turn, of course, improves the chance of effective action. In any case, the tool is, as I say, cyclical, and where you break into it can depend on the situation. But I prefer to start with the learning step for the reasons that I've stated. So the model is called Learn, Plan, Act. In fact, so important do I feel that this first step is that this video will focus exclusively on that learn step, with the plan and the act steps in the next video. So, as I say, I believe that there is always something to learn before you start to plan. So even if you're planning something for the very first time, and so you might feel that there are no lessons to learn yet, we should always ask ourselves some questions before we start making plans. The questions that you might ask in this situation where you haven't done this thing before are: one, what have we planned in the past? Anything else that we planned, and what were the lessons there about how we planned or how successful was it? Is there some learning there for us? It's always worth taking a little time to reconnect to the past experiences and be honest with yourselves about how they went. I do this frequently myself in business and in my personal life, and it often results in some very useful insights that influence my next plan, my plan of action. And I definitely encourage all of my teams and my clients to do so too. A second question you might ask is: does anyone in your team or elsewhere have experience and learnings in what you're about to plan? And can we learn anything from them? Can we expand the group wisdom, as it were, by finding out who else has done what you're about to do? Even in the very unlikely event that you and your team have never planned anything before, and also that there's no one else you could borrow learning from in your organization or around you, we should always ask ourselves at least two key questions. One, what facts or information do we have about the event we're about to plan? What do we already know? And have we made sure that everyone involved in the planning process has that knowledge, shares the same level of knowledge? So that first learning step is: what do we know, and does everyone that's involved know it, share that knowledge? And secondly, what else do we need to know or learn before we plan? When you look at what you're about to do, is there missing knowledge that stands out and that is obvious? Now, you may find more of that as you start to plan, but at this stage, ask yourself that question: what else do we need to know? Have we got enough knowledge, enough information to actually start planning effectively? Now, it's important to remember that, of course, these are questions, like pretty much everything else I'm going to talk about in all the videos I make, that you work on with your team, so that you can connect them to the challenge that you're working on this time, the plan that you're coming up with, the problem you're trying to solve, the activity you're trying to deliver. Connect them to that challenge and its history and its background, as I say, all the knowledge we've already got about it. And then engage them in thinking about the learnings and the implications of that knowledge and learnings, and then grow their understanding of this cycle, and particularly and specifically what a good learning process looks like and how to use it. So you're connecting, engaging, and growing your team again. Now, of course, if you're about to plan something that you or your team members have done before, then there should be some obvious problems or mistakes from previous experiences. And I'm not obviously going to advise you how to solve those, because I can't know what they are. But the key here, when you're working on past issues and problems, is to be sure that you have really understood the root cause of the problems at a level where you can take action this time to avoid or mitigate similar problems. Now we'll cover this particular subject and how you get to root cause in much more deeply in an upcoming video on problem solving. So do look out for that. But as a little taster now that might help you, try asking why 5 times. The 5 whys. Why did that problem occur? Because of A. Why did A happen? Oh, because of B. Why did B? And you go on until you've asked that why question 5 times. And if you ask those 5 whys, you will fully understand the problem almost certainly, and you'll usually arrive at a root cause that is in your control, or at least in your influence, and that you can plan some action on. Also, importantly, even if the last time that you planned and delivered a similar activity or any activity, everything went really well and there was no real problems to learn from, it pays to review and learn each time. You can do this by asking questions such as: were there any near misses where things could have gone wrong, but we were lucky? Did we get lucky at some point or other? And how can we not depend on luck next time? What was the root cause of that near miss, and how can we address it? Did we have to rush and panic to meet deadlines? Did we demand unreasonable effort and hours from anyone? Often easy to forget that after the event when we're celebrating. If we put people under, did we cause undue stress and anxiety to our team or to other stakeholders that were impacted by our work? Did we use resources inefficiently or wastefully because of hurry or bad planning or whatever else? How can we avoid that in the next activity? And could we have done it faster, cheaper, or with better quality of output? In short, how could we do it better this time? That's the point of this cycle, to learn and improve. Now, it's also important after any activity and when you're doing this learning to ask what went well last time. A powerful and often forgotten part of learning is to ensure that you retain the elements of the action that contributed to the success. Asking yourself and your team what went well, what contributed to our success, where did we beat things, where did we better the timeline or the outcomes or the targets or the results we were trying to get, and how can we try to repeat that element in the new plan. Now, whilst accepting the danger of boring you by repeating myself, I must stress again the importance of this learned step. It is so critical. Failure and errors are always going to happen. Unforeseen problems are always going to arise. But if we can stare them in the face, truly understand them, get to root cause, learn from them, we become stronger, better and smarter. Now, that might seem obvious to you, and you may wonder why I'm stressing it again to such a degree, but I frequently see organizations and leaders who have created, perhaps unthinkingly, accidentally created a culture of blame and shame where people feel the need to hide their errors or shift the blame elsewhere for fear of a storm of blame, accusation and denial, of course. When in reality, given that errors and failure are inevitable, and when we're trying to do our best and we're pushing the envelope to improve things, life is one long series of glitches and errors and problems inevitably, and they should be seen as opportunities to learn and improve, not to blame and shame or hold people necessarily accountable. Now, this is an absolutely fundamental aspect of good leadership. Creating a learning environment where your team members can accept and be open about their errors, mistakes and failures, and so can you as their leader, and use them for the growth and learning of themselves, of yourself, of the team, of the organization, should be a major focus for all leaders. And it's so often missed in many organizations, often with truly terrible implications to the organization and to others sometimes. Now, organizations who don't learn from the mistakes are bound to repeat them. Creating a culture where cover up and distance yourself is essential for an individual's survival in the organization will likely lead to major failure at some point, and will certainly deny the organization the chance to be a fast learning powerhouse that can innovate, improve quickly, in a world, frankly, where these attributes are increasingly the baseline for just staying in the game. Now, I will leave you with one last thought. It was a quote from George Guilliam. The famous quote is, "To err once is human, to persist in error is diabolical." Now, this famous quote forgives our tendency to make mistakes, but suggests that if we don't learn from our errors, we are doing the devil's work, literally diabolical. So hopefully you can see why you must learn to win. And in the next video, we'll complete the learn, plan, act cycle with the plan and act steps in more detail. Now, I hope this video was useful and of some interest to you. Let me know your thoughts and comments below. And also, please remember to subscribe to the channel if you would, and hit the reminder bell to receive notifications when new content drops in each week. And that way you'll get access, as I say, to the whole of the Open Leadership approach free of charge when I release more videos in the coming weeks and months. Now, you can get access to more free resources, as promised at the start of this video, at openleadershipbase.com. That's openleadershipbase.com. That includes excerpts from my book, but other resources as well. You can also join the Open Leadership Base forum there at that site or through that site, and get involved in conversations with me and other leaders, share experience, ask questions, as well as letting me know your thoughts and about the content you'd like to see there on that website and on this channel. Now, if you are impatient to get an overall overview of the Open Leadership approach and don't want to wait for the full video versions to arrive as I produce them, you could buy my book, Stepping Up, How to Be Great in Your First or Next Leadership Role. It's available on Amazon. The link is in the video description below. But do remember that I will be giving all of that content away and more free on this channel going forward. So, it just remains for me to say thank you once more for visiting the Open Leadership channel, and see you next time.